You want to listen to a podcast?
By who?
Georgia GOP Congressman Doug Collins.
How is it?
The greatest thing I have ever heard in my whole life.
I could not believe my ears.
In this house, wherever the rules are disregarded, chaos and mob rule. It has been said today, where is bravery? I'll tell you where bravery is found and courage is found. It's found in this minority who has lived through the last year of nothing but rules being broken, people being put down, questions not being answered. And this majority say, be damned with anything else. We're going to impeach and do whatever we want to do. Why? Because we won an election. I guarantee you, one day you'll be back in the minority and it ain't gonna be that fun.
All right, happy Friday, folks. Welcome to Friday Fun Day. My name is Chip Lake. I'm not Doug Collins, but Doug, so I'm guest hosting again today. Happy to guest host the Doug Collins podcast. Doug is out of the country. He's traveling. He'll be back next week for 3 shows. But we got a good show today. You know, Wednesday I had Kip Kiefer from WJOX in Birmingham, Alabama here, and we previewed what was going to happen yesterday in Fulton County Superior Court here just outside of Atlanta. And holy cow, are there some fireworks in Scott McAfee's courtroom and a hearing to determine if Fani Willis should be disqualified as the prosecutor in the election interference case involving Donald Trump. So we're going to get started. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl since Friday Fun Day is once a week, and we haven't really had a chance to talk about it yet. We'll talk a little bit about that, especially everything surrounding it. Kansas City, obviously, had a parade and an event this week on Wednesday in Kansas City that was marred by a tragic event with gunshots and, unfortunately, the death of one person and injuries to over 20 people in just scattered, random, crazy, stupid gunfire. So we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll talk about Taylor Swift. Of course, we got to talk about Taylor Swift. It's Friday Fun Day. We're going to talk a little bit of basketball, All-Star game this week in Indianapolis, and then big moment college sports, women's college sports yesterday. Caitlin Clark, the All-Star superstar player out of Iowa, needed 8 points to break the all-time NCAA scoring record, and she did it very, very early in the contest. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So stick with us. We're going to take a short break, and then when we get back, James and I will get into all of those issues and more. So we'll be back in just a second.
Hey, folks, when you look out and you see the country and just the disarray it is, you see the Biden administration, you see the wholesale prices have just went through the roof again. Inflation is tearing us up. If you have your finances all impinged in just a few areas, if you're just in stocks and bonds and you're not diversified, I got some news for you. You need a navigator. You need somebody to help you get to where you need to go with those finances. And I can't think of anybody better to do that than my friends at Legacy Precious Metals. You need precious metals in that portfolio. You need gold and silver. And Legacy Precious Metals, the folks there, they're the navigators. They know how to deal with tough times. They know and how to look ahead and take your personal situation and make it something that can be workable for you in the long term, because that's, at the end of the day, that's the one you're most concerned about. You need to make sure that your personal finances and your retirement are secure. You need folks like Legacy Precious Metals helping you in that. They will take the time to learn you. They'll learn your finances. They'll learn where your investment goals are, and they'll help you get there. And metals and gold right now, in this kind of crazy inflation, in this kind of crazy economy with the Biden's economy, is just, you need that help. And Legacy Precious Metals is the one to do that. So give Legacy Precious Metals a call, 866-528-1903, 866-528-1903, or you can always visit them online at legacypminvestments.com, and you can download their free investor's guide. Legacy Precious Metals, they're the ones you need. They're the navigators to help you through these turbulent times. Hey, everybody, Mike Lindell and the MyPillow employees want to thank all of my listeners, the Great Doug Collins podcast listeners, for your continued support. To thank you, they're offering an overstocked clearance sale right now for the best price you ever use when you use the promo code Collins, COLLINS, and you get free shipping on the entire order. You get 50% off the MyPillow 2.0, the brand new flannel sheets that just arrived and won't last long. Get six-pack towel sets for only $29.98 and take advantage of the free shipping on large items like mattresses and mattress toppers. 100% made here in the United States and on sale for as low as $99. Everything is on sale, from the brand new kitchen towels that have the same technology as the bath towels that actually absorb dog beds, blankets, couch pillows, and much, much more. To get the best specials ever, go to the mypillow.com, and use the promo code Collins, COLLINS, or call 800-986-3994 and use the same keyword Collins, COLLINS, and get free shipping on your entire order while supplies last. My Pillow products, thank you. Y'all go check them out.
All right, folks, thanks for joining us today. I wanted to get started before we kind of dive into the Super Bowl and Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce and everything that happened in Kansas City. I just wanted to kind of start with a little follow-up of Wednesday's podcast that I did with Kip Kiefer. And holy cow, I don't know how many of you were able to listen or to watch the hearing yesterday in Fulton County Superior Court just outside Atlanta. But salacious, tawdry are a few of the words that I have seen to describe the testimony. I got to watch a lot of it. I didn't get to watch all of it. I had an obligation in the afternoon, so I didn't really get to watch a whole lot of Fani Willis's testimony live. But wow. I mean, is all we can say. CNN carried it live most of the day. Fox News carried it live most of the day. And I tell you, I'm not a lawyer, but I learned one thing after the hearing for certain, and that is, if you have to prove in a courtroom in front of a judge that someone had a romantic relationship with their partner, and you have to prove when it began, there's a lot of people that don't want to talk about that when they get subpoenaed. And one witness, a former college friend of Fani Willis and roommate of Fani Willis, there was only one witness that was called to the stand that was able to testify definitively that she believes the relationship between the two started in 1999. Everybody else that was called had really good lawyers that did a really good job of making certain that they would object every time Ashley Merchant, who was Michael Roman's attorney, would ask questions. Ashley Merchant is the one attorney that I think has the goods. I think for anybody that did get an opportunity to watch that hearing, it was obvious to me that Ashley Merchant had Nathan Wade's phone records. But she wasn't able to introduce them in court for some reason. I don't know if they were given to her by somebody and she didn't want to be put in a position of having to answer on how she obtained the phone records. But it was pay-per-view television. And I tell you, too, we also learned in the hearing two things that I think were pretty interesting, James. We learned that, number one, Fani Willis and Nathan Wade are no longer involved romantically. And that was news to me. I figured they still were. We didn't have any information to the contrary.
When did they claim they broke it off?
They claim they've broken it off romantically, which is very interesting because they still.
When did they claim it? As I'm saying, how long
within the past 8 to 9 months.
Oh, okay. Convenient.
Yeah,
okay.
Within the past 8 to 9 months. Another thing too. Attorneys are really good, James, and good attorneys are really good. And you got to be so precise at how you ask them questions. And, Ashley Merchant asked Nathan Wade over and over again, if he had any type of receipts documenting his travels with Fani Willis. And Nathan Wade is a very soft-spoken, polite man. And while I'm sure Nathan Wade didn't want to be on the stand, James, he was able to hide it very well. His answers to Ashley Merchant were, "No, ma'am." "Yes, ma'am." No, ma'am. That's not true. Yes, ma'am. We did.
Sure.
very, very
Put
very
together.
smooth, very smooth operator. But it was like, no, ma'am, I don't have receipts. And then she, provided credit card statements, and he said, well, that's a statement. Well, Mr. Wade, you said you didn't have any receipts. Well, I don't have any receipts. You didn't ask me if I had statements.
Yes. I love that so much. You know what?
Great.
Regardless how you feel about it, you gotta love that he's like, go for it. Come at me. I got everything you need. I got an answer for everything.
And then, like, out of a episode of Game of Thrones, the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. So everybody representing the Fulton County District Attorney in the hearing, they all work for the district attorney, who's Fani Willis. So Fani's their boss. So as they are making arguments to squash her testimony in front of the judge, Fani just walks in the back of the courtroom and says, forget about it. I'm ready to get on the stand. And it even took her assistant DAs by surprise. You could tell. And I was like, holy cow. Now, Nathan Wade didn't want to be on the stand, but he was smooth and sweet and very soft-spoken. Fani Willis, on the other hand, James, she got on the stand and she was angry from the get-go. I mean, combative, angry, didn't want to be here. You're lying about me. You're lying about me. And I couldn't help but think, after watching Nathan Wade and Fani Willis testify, about the old adage, opposites attract, because from a stylistic and personality perspective, you couldn't get two more different people than Nathan Wade and Fani Willis. And James, I mean, just as a human being, think about this. I mean, this is a big case for both of them. A big case for her because she's district attorney, and a huge case for him because he is the special prosecutor that she hired 3 years ago to handle this case. And there are 15 defendants, and one of them is a former president of the United States. And in a couple months, he's going to be the nominee again for the Republican Party for president of the United States. So regardless of what the merits of their case are, they have to work together in a very, very tense, stressful environment. And the relationship was put on stage yesterday for the whole world to see. And then of that, I'll get your thoughts on it with this, but the reason Fani didn't have any receipts is because Fani, we learned yesterday, carries a lot of cash. She carries a lot of cash around. And she evidently repaid, or her testimony was, she repaid Nathan Wade for everything that Nathan Wade purchased for her in cash. And so Ashley Merchant, as the attorney for one of the defendants in the case, who's trying to get the district attorney disqualified, said, well, did you go to the ATM to get all this cash? Well, no. Do you have any bank records did you go to the bank and withdraw this cash? Well, no. Well, how do you get all this cash? And Fani said, and I kid you not, James, my daddy told me early in life that you always need to have 6 months cash available to you at all times. At all times.
That's not how you answer. Where'd you get the cash from?
And then she went on to say too, that if you have cash, that you're in a stronger position to negotiate. And the example she gave was with the jet ski people on the cruises. I mean, James, you can't make this look. I've got a good marriage. I've been married 24 years, but if my wife found me with 6 months of cash that I was hiding, I don't think I'd be able to get away with, hey, look, Fani's dad said it was good practices. James, this all happened yesterday on TV for the whole world to see.
Well, it makes me think of a couple things, right? First and foremost, if you're a fan, if you love the show Parks and Rec, there's an episode where a relationship is on trial, and it's very funny because they have to ask these crazy kind of personal questions. When did it start? When was the first time this happened? When I didn't get to see the case yesterday, but I can't imagine my relationship being torn to shreds in front of people that don't know me, have never made a judgment about me until now, right? Because let's be honest, if you meet somebody one-on-one versus you finding out how they are in a relationship, you will have very different opinions of that person.
100.
Right? Like I'm not saying that the relationship was bad or it was crazy or whatever. I'm just saying you're talking about Fani Willis coming in being angry, upset. That there's no way you're going to question me about this. I hired a man to do a job; it shouldn't be in question. Blah blah blah. Right? That's the idea.
Yeah, and that's right, James. And it was almost like Nathan Wade didn't want to be on the stand any more than Fani Willis wanted to be on the stand, right? You want to be on the other side of the stand asking witnesses questions. And
I just think this all comes down to the stupidity of doing it in the first place.
It does.
Whether he deserved to be on that or not, he may have. That's not up for. I don't think him deserving to be on there is. His merit is up. I don't think that part of it really, to me, is up for debate. It's like, why would you choose someone like that?
Yeah,
you have a relationship. It's crazy she would choose that.
It is, and Nathan Wade's body language when he was on the stand was one of, I don't want to be here, but I understand that I have to be here,
right?
And so I'm going to make the most of it. I'm going to make the most of it. Fani didn't have that body language, and it was interesting as Ashley Merchant was pressing her on where their relationship is today, and that's how we found out from Fani Willis that they're no longer having a relationship. She talked about a quote unquote, they're no longer having a relationship. She said because she could never get Nathan Wade to view her as equals, and Ashley Merchant pressed her and said, well, can you give an example of that? She thought about it and said, Nathan Wade, at one point in time, I remember him saying that the best thing a woman can do for him is make him a sandwich. I mean, this is on live TV. And Wade couldn't be in the room, obviously, because the witnesses on the hearing are not allowed to be in the courtroom when other witnesses are testifying in the hearing. But
that's a crazy thing to say. And here's the thing: if it's true, then Wade sucks.
Yeah,
but if it's not true, this is an example of well, he's not here. I'm definitely going to say it. But you know what you made me think of? You said opposites attract. And I see this every once in a while. I don't know if it was a comedy routine or whatever. I don't remember if it was stand-up routine, but someone was basically saying it's like opposites attract. I'm a very quiet person, but I need someone who's fiery because who else is going to tell the waiter that I didn't ask for onions in my order?
Yeah,
and it made me laugh because I was thinking I've been in a situation where
I can assure you, if he didn't ask for onions and he got onions, he would not ask the waiter to remove the onions or bring it. But his date, if it was Fani Willis, she would take care of that for him.
Right, and that's what you saw yesterday. You basically saw the dynamics of a relationship air out on national television yesterday. That is
110%. And
I think we should do more of this. We should turn this into an actual reality show because I didn't even watch it, and I'm excited.
And Fani said one of the questions that she answered as if it needed to be said, it was kind of understood by the audience. She said, well, Mr. Wade didn't say that. And she said, well, Mr. Wade is a Southern gentleman, and I am not. Yes, ma'am. We understand. So
that's beautiful.
As we get to watch this play out, we have a whole new backdrop now to view the dynamics that exist. And I just can't. I mean, look, we've all been in relationships that haven't worked over the courses of our lifetimes. But imagine being in a relationship with a DA who appointed you as a special prosecutor for the most high-profile case in the history of maybe the country. Certainly,
at least in the last 20 years.
And then after you get appointed, you have a relationship with her. That relationship lasts somewhere around 18 months. You break it off, and you're still the special prosecutor. She's still the DA, and the case hasn't gone to trial yet. So we get to kind of watch that. But in any event, I am glad we got a chance to preview it on Wednesday because, I knew, James, it was going to be theater, but I had no idea the type of theater. It's like you walk into a play and you know it's going to be good, but you don't know everything that you're going to see. I just kind of feel like that's what happened yesterday.
Can I ask a quick question before we move on from this?
Of course.
So she's still the DA. That nothing's changed. Is there anything in this case that would have them removed from this case? That from the Trump trial? Like, is that what's the idea here? Because are we trying to get them both removed, or are they trying to get them removed?
They're trying to get her removed, just her removed, and that's the purpose of the hearing that happened today, and that will probably finish yesterday. And then it's a hearing on a defense motion to get her removed, and so
but he would stay as prosecutor.
He could, yeah,
or a new DA would. The
motion, the motion that was filed by the defense is not to get him removed; is to get her removed.
Okay, that's why I was curious because I understand. Like, if she gets removed, that means there's a new DA that has to be. He or she might choose someone else.
Yeah, I mean, she could get removed from the case. She'd still be the district attorney, but she could no longer oversee the case. It would have to be.
Oh, so she would still be district attorney. It would just be
district attorney. Yeah, this is not a motion to remove her as DA. It's simply a motion to remove her.
Just to remove her from the case.
Just remove her from the case.
They ruined. She could have just. They're trying to ruin her entire relationship. All she had to do was remove herself from the case.
Oh yeah. But yes, that's true. But the reason it's such a big deal, James, is because there might not be another prosecutor that I'm aware of. Certainly, and I think what would happen would be there would need to be another prosecutor appointed, and I don't know that she'd be able to appoint. It very well might have to be the attorney general in Georgia or some other mechanism. There could be, a 3-person panel to determine. The bottom line is if Fani gets removed, it's most likely this case disintegrates. And that's why this hearing is.
And that's why I just think it's so funny. She probably could have just split. She could have, first of all, if she chose him for the case and then got in a relationship, it is what it is. I don't know. That to me, that happens. Things happen.
Yeah.
But if all she had to do basically was remove herself from this and let somebody else take over, and she had to have her entire relationship and her character question on TV, that is the worst decision making. Maybe DA is in the position that she should be in.
Oh my God. And we learned just how much cash. How much.
That's right. Keep that cash on you. She should have the Randy Moss straight cash on her car from now on. Let it be a thing.
It's cold hard cash. So that's
so funny.
That's because her daddy told her you always got to have 6 months cash.
Always got to have 6 months.
Hey, if I had 6 months, what's 6 months cash? I think that's a good rule of thumb to live by.
What is 6 months cash? What the hell is 6 months? Give me a number.
Well,
6 months cash to my parents was like enough to get by. What's 6 months cash?
It's enough to take $9,000 to Belize with you.
Of course. Who doesn't have 6 months cash and includes $9,000 to Belize?
Because if you're trying to hide financial transactions, using Visa and American Express doesn't work very well.
No.
So, I mean, and if you're negotiating with the jet ski rental people on your cruise, and she said I know we got to move on, but it's too good. She said, "Can you be specific? Is that the cruise that I took with Mr. Wade's sister or Mr. Wade's mother?" I mean,
That's
anyway,
funny.
moving
That's
on.
actually funny. I kind of like the idea that these two were like, they're obviously you said they were two opposites, but one approached it with like, you can come at me, but I'm going to have an answer. And the other one was like, I'm a district attorney. You can't do this. Like, I know what I'm talking about. I'm going to come at you too.
I got a text from somebody who will remain nameless, during the testimony, and he said, "I never thought I'd feel bad for Nathan Wade." But I feel bad for Nathan Wade. So moving on, James, we do Friday's Finest once a week. So every week. And last week at this time, while we were doing Friday's Finest, Taylor Swift was wrapping up her final show in Tokyo. And what a 7 days it's been for Taylor Swift, James. She, about this time last week, she was hopping on an airplane to make the journey to Los Angeles, where she got in very late on Friday night and spent Friday night. She got in Saturday morning, I think. Either way, she spent one night in L.A., and then she made her way to Las Vegas on Sunday. Obviously, the Super Bowl in Las Vegas goes to overtime. Great game. Kansas City ends up winning the game on a overtime touchdown from Patrick Holmes to McCole Hardman, and then Taylor and Travis get to embrace after the game in front of the stage and exchange a hug and a kiss. And then what I thought was interesting is, the teams have an after party. They have to schedule an after party, win or lose. And if you win, the after party is a hell of a lot of fun, and it goes till the wee hours of the morning. And if you lose, you probably go have a few beers and you go to bed. But, both parties and their families, because, teams are sequestered from their families and their loved ones on Super Bowl week. So it's their kind of time after the game. The season's over with, win or lose. And very interesting, the Chiefs had their after party at a nightclub at the Wynn Casino. And Taylor Swift was, sending still photos from that party with her parents in attendance and Travis's parents in attendance. And they didn't, Travis and Taylor and their families didn't get to the party, they said, till 2:30 in the morning local time. Which is like, what is it? I mean, what is Vegas on? I'm assuming Las Vegas.
I think they're 2 hours ahead.
2 or 3, right? They're Mountain Time or Pacific Time. Either way, that's 4:30, 5:30 Eastern Time. And then Taylor hops on a couple of days later, hops on an airplane, heads to Australia. We know yesterday she arrived in Australia. So what a week for Taylor Swift and the Swifties. James, your thoughts on all the...
A couple things I wanted to talk about with you. I think they're, first and foremost, kudos to the world's greatest cameraman for panning from Travis and Taylor Swift making out at the club, and then slowly panning to the right to see Jason Kelce in a luchador mask at the DJ booth. That man deserves a raise. I don't know who he is, but give him everything he deserves and put him on. Let him film everything, because the dichotomy of that whole night. God knows where Kylie Kelce was. She was probably taking a nap. She's like, I'm sick of this.
Kylie gone to bed. She wasn't going out.
Yeah, she was like, there's no way I'm doing this again.
No.
But Jason Kelce is everybody's like, I know that he was going to win Sexiest Man Alive and all that fun stuff. But like, the reason he was going to win it is not just because of his looks. It is literally because he embodies everything people want to be.
Oh, yeah.
He's a super supportive brother. He parties his ass off. He shows up to the events that are important. And he lives for the moment that we all want. It's the life of the party. Right? Absolutely. And then there's Travis and Taylor, and they're living they are literally living a fantasy. Whether you believe that it's a real relationship or not, don't be stupid. It is. They are living a fantasy. But I have a question for you, Chip.
Yeah.
Because this is about the actual game itself, and this has been bothering me. And I've only had my brother to talk about it, and he doesn't care about sports as much as I do. So he did agree with me. Did Tony Romo not absolutely botch the final call of that game?
Yeah. So it's a good question.
Jim Nantz deserved better. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, look, I do think in hindsight, and I like Tony Romo as an announcer.
It's not about that moment. It was about that moment.
But I do think in hindsight that if he had to do it over again, he probably would have just kind of let the moment speak for itself.
Yeah, it was so frustrating because first of all, the NFL, get rid of the clock. Get rid of the clock on the overtime. What are you doing?
Yeah.
If we don't know,
have it.
What's the point of the clock? The clock made it seem the clock forced Tony Romo to do an over explanation, so people knew that what was happening was happening, and then it was Nance barely got a chance to explain and let it breathe and be like, Mahomes has the ball, blah blah blah, gets it over to Hardman, touchdown. Like he didn't have a chance to really do that. He had to force that in at the last second, all because the NFL's stupid clock that shouldn't exist if both teams have a shot to win it. That makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah, I don't I really don't understand why they had the clock. I mean, I can only assume that it's because they didn't think it would ever hit zero in overtime. They thought the game would be over before then, and I probably did too. But
probably an aesthetic thing.
I'm glad you brought that up because that was also kind of a headline and storyline after the game is a lot of the criticism that Kyle Shanahan took for taking the ball, which I think is unwarranted because if you take the ball and both teams score,
you have the last chance to score. He was correct.
You got the last chance to score.
Absolutely.
And the counter argument to that is, but if you take the ball first, then the one of the greatest quarterbacks, maybe when he's done playing, the greatest quarterback to ever play the game.
Probably.
We can't.
That's the way it's headed.
Yeah, he gets it, but what are you going to do, right? I mean, you're going to give, had he elected to kick. And Mahomes went down and scored a touchdown, and San Francisco went down and scored a touchdown. You're going to give the ball back to Kansas City. Guess what? Does anybody think they're really not going to score? I mean, come on.
And another thing is that I think what makes the ending more important is all the players after the fact on the Chiefs side versus the San Francisco side. Everybody on the Chiefs was like, yeah, we had a meeting about this 3 or 4 times before the Super Bowl, and then you see all the San Francisco players. I know Kyle Juszczyk was like the top one that was explaining it, but he was like, yeah, this wasn't explained to us, and we didn't know much about it. First of all, that's a lame excuse. I like Kyle Juszczyk. I don't think he was making an excuse. I think he was just being honest. He seems like a pretty honest person. Every one of those guys seemed like they were being honest. That's the worst part. But it feels like a little bit of a lame excuse. It's like, how did you not know the rules? But it's not like it's the player's job to go Google the rules of football. I know that that is the coach's job. And the fact that didn't come up during meetings is insane to me.
Yeah, I also
hammered home.
Well, and Shanahan took some criticism for that, but McCall Hardman was the first one to say he didn't know the game was over when he scored that touchdown.
Right. For sure. Absolutely. But it didn't matter. It doesn't matter if he says it because he won. First of all, the overtime rules, to me, I think it's ridiculous. I liked when I know it was a coin flip and we shouldn't decide games over coin flips. I get that. But then remove the clock and make it clear. Just remove the clock. That's all I'm saying.
Remove the clock.
Make it so clear that it's overtime. I think they're just afraid of the aesthetic because the NFL is on TV. I really think that might have been it, and that's silly.
You're exactly right. And another thing too that kind of bothers me a little bit about the NFL, because I think it's something they can fix really easily. I mean, but what I think they've got to find a way to fix is that the Stanley Cup champions, when somebody wins the Stanley Cup, the players get an opportunity to kind of carry the Stanley Cup around the rink after the game, at the end of the World Series. It's like the whole team's up, to receive the trophy. The NBA kind of same thing. I mean,
pretty much everyone's there.
Yeah, and I mean, in the Super Bowl, they do a halftime show, which is from a logistics perspective. And I've been to one Super Bowl. I was at the Super Bowl they had in Atlanta, and to watch the setup of the halftime show and the breakdown of the halftime show, just from a physical setup, it's really fascinating to watch how quickly they do that.
Right.
And so, they had this little tiny stage where they could only fit like 10 or 12 people after the game. And
why put it on a stage?
Yeah, I mean, totally.
Just let everybody be out there.
Bring the same stage out you had for Usher. And,
well,
let
by
the
the way,
team,
real quick.
What's that?
For my generation, what a halftime show. For my generation, that halftime show was everything. I just think it's hilarious that this wasn't done in Atlanta.
I was just about to say that. That was the show. That was the show we should have had in Atlanta.
Yes, absolutely. Anyway, continue. I'm sorry. I just had to say.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. Let me ask
how many hits Usher had.
Before we talk about the Chiefs parade and what happened in San Francisco and the unfortunate end of that, does Travis Kelce show up in Australia this week for any of Taylor?
I don't think he does. I think the two of them need a much needed break.
But they've not been together.
Well, I guess, but she's been at every game. She's been at every. What I'm saying is he might go because he either goes to a single place and that's it, or he goes on tour with her. Which, let's be honest, that doesn't need to happen. We don't need them breaking up now. If he goes on tour with her, they're breaking up. Factually.
Well, I think he's only been to one of her shows because they started dating right at the beginning of the football season.
Right. Exactly.
He had obligations.
Whirlwind of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see.
I'm rooting for him to go to Australia, though. That'd be awesome. Travis takes over Australia. Jason Kelce goes with him. It's a whole thing.
I don't think Kylie's going to let him go.
No, Kylie's going to beat.
Kylie's not going to let Jason go.
Kylie Kelce is going to literally beat up Jason Kelce. I'm certain of it. She's going to fight him in some place. Yeah, she is like, if you had to pick, like, yes, we all want movie star, whatever. You're going to pick a wife. Kylie Kelsey's the woman.
Yeah, she's great. She's awesome.
Right? Anyway, all right. Now we can move to the stats.
She seems like she's got a lot of, but I'm going to bet that Kylie Kelce doesn't keep 6 months cash reserves at her house.
She doesn't need to, but yeah, you're right. She doesn't.
She doesn't. Chiefs had their Super Bowl parade on Wednesday, and look, it was a great parade and a great show until the end. Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Bucks a few years ago showed everybody it was okay to get completely intoxicated at these events.
NBA players have been doing this for years.
That's right, and now all of a sudden it's out in the open. And sure enough, that's what happened. But it was marred, James, at the end by, what looks to be now just a dispute between two groups that were armed. And, a million people attended, around a million people, 800,000 to a million people, attended the parade. Union Station is a central hub in downtown Kansas City. I don't know that quite a million people went there, but there were tens of thousands of people within a square mile of Union Station. And when you have two groups of what looks like kids, what looks like kids getting in a gunfight, just tragic. You're running, you're shooting a weapon. It's crazy. In hindsight, it's tragic, but it's also pretty amazing in hindsight that only one person lost their life in this, but 22 people got hit by gunfire.
And they were all kids.
And they were all kids.
They had to go to a children's hospital, Chip.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think this needs to get into a gun conversation at the moment because
No, not at all.
I don't think I'm qualified for it. Because I don't own a gun, but I'm not against guns, so I don't think I'm qualified for this. I will say though that the ramifications of this are the step up of security at these places, obviously. Or I heard someone discussing whether or not we're going to move parades to indoors.
Oh.
I won't have it. We cannot let that happen. We can't let that happen. We can't change the parade. Okay? We can't let these scumbags who decided they were going to start shooting up an event that the entire world was watching for the most part. I know not everybody watches the Super Bowl parade, but a lot of people were watching. And I know that there were new. I think I don't remember where I heard this yesterday, so I don't want to not give credit. I think it was Chris Broussard who was saying he was watching the news, and there was a newscaster, and they were like, whatever amount of people watch this, and this is how Kansas City chose to represent itself. And I was like, I don't think that's fair because Kansas City didn't choose to represent itself that way.
Not
These
fair.
people did, and that I don't know the guy's name, but incredible for jumping on the couple people that jumped in and stepped up and took the gunman out.
Yeah,
I mean everyone thinks that they'll take that step in that moment, but they did, and that's incredible.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, there were so many cameras around, so we got to see it. I mean, you know, when something like that happens,
he didn't even think; he just reacted.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
It just sucks because Kansas City deserves better. Listen, when they chose. The problem is that, and I don't know how old the gunmen were, so I'm not going to get into that part of it. But they chose to take what would have been one of the big moment spotlights in Kansas City, and they turned it into tragedy. It's the same thing where the shooting in Vegas. That was a big event that someone chose. They always choose when this stuff happens. They choose big events, and I don't know if they think it's going to be easier or it's going to be more important or whatever it is. But the shootings are always in big events, and it's terrifying.
Yeah, and I saw some also. I mean, you get some good stories coming out of here too. Obviously, the team, the coaches, the coaching staff, and the players were all moved inside Union Station into a restaurant. And they were safe there with police officers. But Jackson Mahomes, who's a controversial figure in his own, just a kid that seems to always make bad decisions. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's not. He's not his brother, and he kind of acts out to get attention. But I saw that Jackson Mahomes stayed with a child who had lost his parents during that because his parents had to scatter, and kept the child entertained and safe until he could run around because he wasn't afforded the security protection that his brother did because he wasn't on the team.
Right.
So he was outside with everybody else, and Jackson Mahomes stayed with a child who had lost his parents. So that was good to see. I very rarely see good things that Jackson.
Yeah,
Mahomes
let's get more positive stories from Jackson Mahomes for God's sakes, because you know what? As much as we want to shoot this kid down. And we don't have to make this a Jackson Mahomes thing. But, yeah, he's made some terrible decisions. And if the sexual assault thing is real, like, that's, there's nothing coming back from that. But I hope that, because you don't want listen, this is the most famous quarterback in the world's brother. He's going to be in the spotlight regardless.
Yeah.
Especially when he puts himself there half the time.
That's right.
So, I don't know. I hope that trend is going up with him.
Yeah, 100%, James, 100%. Hey, man, look, our time's gone by in a hurry. We're already 40 minutes into the podcast. Yeah. I want to just touch on two things real quick before we leave. Caitlin Clark from Iowa, just an amazing story. I mean, she broke the all-time leading scoring record yesterday. Needed 8 points in the game.
Took a logo 3 to make it, by the way. I don't know if you watched the shot.
And I don't know. I think you said she went for 49 last night.
Yeah. So Chip, you want to laugh real quick? I forgot that women's basketball, when their college basketball games, they do quarters because college men's does halves. So she had 28, and it was the second, and there was time left, and I was like, oh wow, it's a good game, 28 points, and then it was halftime, and I went, oh, she has 28 points at halftime.
Yeah.
I was like, do you know how hard it is to get 28 points in a basketball game?
Yeah.
And this woman is doing it on a regular basis, like it's no problem. She had 49 and 13, and I think 5 assists, five rebounds, 13 assists, 49 points. You don't know what she's going to take over the world when she gets the WNBA, and I hope, as a basketball fan and a fan of just the sport in general, like, I hope that she keeps that game moving forward, and I hope that she's a highlight reel so they can actually play her games, because I know that's not going to be the case always. We get it. People don't like it as much as the men's game, but she has taken over college basketball, and men's college basketball literally cannot compete with her at all this year.
Well, she's selling out all the venues. I mean, anytime Iowa women's basketball has an away game, the venues sell out. I think she's got another 7 games left in the regular season, probably another 3 games in the conference championship. And then if Iowa makes it to the national championship like they did last year, that's another 5 games. So she's got another 14, 15 games this year to pad to that number. I mean, this might be a record that we don't see broken in our lifetime.
Yeah. She's gonna she's gonna break the men's record.
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
She's gonna if for those of you who don't know and don't understand the sport, the record is held by
who is the record held by? I don't even know.
I believe it's Pete Maravich.
I believe probably is Pistol Pete.
Pete Maravich averaged 44 points a game for his college career. That is unheard of. It's never going to be done again. Don't think about it. Move on.
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark is doing this in the women's game by herself, and she's not scoring 44 points a game, but over the last 4 years, she has dominated the sport outside of Kelsey Plum and Diana Taurasi. I can't really think. Maybe Candace Parker. I can't really think of anybody. And she's doing it with the utmost style. Like, she's crushing it in every way. And on top of that, she's selling out arenas.
And she's leading her team in assists.
Yeah, and they're winning games.
The ball also, out too. I mean,
winning games.
Yeah.
All of that is something that just doesn't happen. So I'm super pumped. I'm rooting for it, and I can't wait to watch her in the tournament.
Kudos to her. It's great to see, and hopefully she can get her ring this year since she didn't get it last year. Last thing we want to cover this week, this week is the I believe it's the NBA All-Star Game, James.
NBA All-Star Weekend starts today.
Starts today in Indianapolis.
So today you'll have the celebrity game, which is always stupid and fun, and you'll have the Rising Stars Challenge or whatever it's called now. I don't know what they call it anymore. It was rookie sophomore. Now it's just young guys, 4 teams. They split it up. They have fun. Saturday will be all the 3-point contest, dunk contest, skills challenge, and then Sunday's the game. They brought back the East versus West format for the game, so I'm excited to watch that. Listen, you don't get your hopes up for it, but last year's dunk contest was a lot of fun, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I saw some news coming out this week about an NBA player getting arrested for punching his teammate. What was that about?
Isaiah Stewart for the Pistons, before the game, mind you, before the game, apparently assaulted Devin Eubanks, who plays for the Suns. I think he still plays for the Suns. Before the game. So he was arrested before the game because, as we all know, if you put a uniform on and stand out in the court and you punch somebody, you get a foul. But if you do it 5 minutes before the game tips off, you go to jail. And that's hilarious. Yeah. And this is going to be, if you guys Google Isaiah Stewart, the 2 things you're going to see are him getting arrested for punching Eubanks and him fighting LeBron James. It's a video. He loses his mind, goes full Malice at the Palace kind of style, running after LeBron, trying to fight him. Google it. It's worth a Google. Hopefully he gets better because that is just unnecessary.
I take it Isaiah Stewart will not be partaking in the All-Star game.
Isaiah Stewart probably isn't allowed to know where the All-Star game is.
Yeah, probably not allowed at any of the festivities at Indy. But
probably not. Yeah.
James, our time has flown by today.
Yeah, it has.
It's always great. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I know that Doug is looking forward to being back next week, and he will for Monday and Wednesday show. I hope to be back next Friday with Doug and James. Hopefully, you as well, always, and we can cover we cover everything kind of on Friday's Finest, and I'm sure
I don't know what we're going to do without football. I don't know what we're going to do, Chip.
I'm sure we're going to talk about Taylor Swift in Australia. There's something that's going to happen.
Can we be the people that keep it going forever, no matter what? Even if they break up, we just talk about where they are, while they're broken up.
I think at this point in time, they've been dating long enough where we won't have to be the ones that just do that forever.
It's true. You're right. It won't just be you won't just get your Swift news from the Doug Collins.
I think that's right. So, James, I'll give you the last word, and then we'll sign off for this week. We'll catch everybody.
Listen, enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the All-Star weekend. There's no football this weekend, but there's an NBA All-Star weekend in the basketball capital at one point was Indiana. Go Hoosiers. So check it out. Have some fun.
Yeah, no football. First weekend, there's no football since August. So, we all have to make do. If you're a NASCAR fan, the Daytona 500's this weekend. So between the NBA All-Star game and the Daytona 500, we have a little bit of something to kind of fill the void. But thanks, everybody, for listening. And thanks for letting me fill in this week. And Doug will be back next week. So we'll see you next week on the Doug Collins Podcast.